Okay, I think we are live. Yes, we are. So welcome. And be patient with me because this is the very first live Q&A of Nature Going Smart. So welcome. We sent just about a week ago through our newsletter just a question whether you wanted me to answer any question that you might have. We are actually usually receiving on a constant questions over questions. So I thought, why instead of, apart from getting personally back, these answers sometimes could really be useful for anyone else out there, who might be benefiting from it. And we got quite interesting questions actually coming through. I decided to just get back to just a couple of them for this one time, because I wanted to give them their space to, give a proper answer and hopefully get through, this live alive. Yes, we will make it. So the first question is coming from Abba Bortman. I hope I am pronouncing this well. Thank you very much for getting in touch. She or he is asking, can Parkinson's be treated efficiently, naturally, without medication, just by natural means? Now, this is a very interesting question, and because we also have a video from a couple of years ago on Parkinson's and diet, we are getting quite a lot of questions on actually what to do with Parkinson in terms of, natural alternatives and so on. So I wanted to get into this question, which I think it could be very, very interesting for so many people out there. It's actually, Parkinson's is the second most common neurodegenerative disorder. So unfortunately, it's a very widespread disease, not just in the first world country, but pretty much anywhere at this point. And one of the main reasons for this is that it's possible, it's actually been shown that pesticides use is linked to an increase of Parkinson's cases all around the world. And, with our means of agricultural ways that we use, it's not that uncommon nowadays to see a lot of people suffering from Parkinson's, even from, early age Parkinson in places like, for example, as I said, we worked in India this year, and in many very rural places of India, it's not that uncommon to see many people suffering from Parkinson's. And this is coming, has a lot to do actually with the pesticides that we use. So the first and most important thing I would say, and of course this is valid for anyone, for each of us, is dangerous to eat, fruit or vegetables that have been heavily grown into soils that have been destroyed by pesticides. But it's particularly important for people that have been diagnosed with Parkinson's already. Just to give you another example, excuse me, I just wanted to show off my very beautiful favorite mug. No, but seriously, just to give you another example, in neuroscience, one of the models that we use to basically study the disease, the Parkinson's in animals, so trying to reproduce in a fashion as similar as possible to the disease that it's happening in humans. There is one of the animal models that is used is actually by injecting a compound that it's a pesticide into the animals, and this will provoke then all a series of symptoms that are very similar to what happens to people with Parkinson's. So, I mean, it's not to scare anyone, but I think the first number one thing that we should think about, it's what we introduce in our body daily, okay? From morning to evening, we are going to eat something, unless we're on a fast, but at some point we will break that fast and we will eat. And what we eat can potentially, we could potentially be ingesting a bomb, basically. So the number one thing that we can do is try not to make it worse, okay? Now, In this question, about you ask about treating, so I'll take it exactly for, I'll answer to what you asked, but I don't want this to be confused with curing, okay? At this moment, there is no either natural or synthetic way to cure, and with cure, I mean reverse Parkinson's disease, meaning that, the best thing that we can do is either preventing that the pathology is going to happen, or slowing as much as possible the progression of the disease, which it's a very important step, and at the same time treating the symptoms, so that altogether this is going to lead to a good quality of life. And I think this can be stressed enough, but for many people it doesn't really matter. Of course, it's important one day to be able to find a cure, and I truly hope that this is going to happen. That at the moment in time that we are now, this is not an option. So to think about the people that are having this issue now, we need to think about how to treat the symptoms at the moment. And in order to do that, I like again to go a little bit inside what is Parkinson's in terms of how does it work in our bodies. As I said, we don't have a cure, and most of all, we don't really have the understanding of the etiology of Parkinson's. So we understand that there are common hallmarks to the pathology, but at this moment in time, there is not a single study that refers to exactly what is the cause that is going to make some people going to have Parkinson's, and some other people just having just a normal 60 years old life. So sorry if I'm just going a little bit off track, but all of this is basically to say, let's think about how Parkinson's actually, it's of course similar, can be generalized for the majority of people suffering from Parkinson's, but then each person is going to have sort of different expression, and this is due to what's happening inside. So I'd like to get into that for a little bit, as probably the majority of people that are either affected by this pathology or that are taking care or have a relative who is affected by this pathology know, oh, this is probably best, yes, know that has to do with the neurodegeneration of neurons that produce dopamine. Now, usually this neurodegeneration is usually found in what we call the subcortical system, and with that, the reason I'm saying this is because I'd like you to try and start to make the distinction, for example, between the symptoms that derive mostly from a neurodegeneration of the basal ganglia. So think about when you see stiffness in a person, when that person is having issue with slowness, with the freezing typical of Parkinson's, that is basically coming from a degeneration of these neurons that produce dopamine in the area pretty much at the middle of our brain that is called basal ganglia. Now, other two areas can be also affected. One is the cerebellum, so at the back of our brain, and usually that is shown when people have issues with balancing and with the coordination. And finally, the other part that can be affected by Parkinson's disease is the brainstem. So it's pretty much making a conjunction still between the back. I'm not very good at explaining, but here in the middle, sort of thing. And basically, that area is controlling the autonomic effects in our body. So I'm talking, for example, about the control of our blood pressure, the control of our bowels. Actually, some people with Parkinson's disease suffer from constipation, and they don't even know that this is actually one of the symptoms that is totally related to their disease. As it's not something that they shouldn't even mention to their neurologist, because it has to do with Parkinson's. It's not, just because you have a bad diet sort of thing. So yes, so these are basically just to make these three main distinction of the three main areas that are affected, and some people might have one more than the other, depending also from the stage, the period, and so on. That is more, is going faster or slower. Another characteristic that we see with Parkinson's is that of a degeneration in the mitochondria. And again, I've talked about this probably in way better detail than I'm doing now in the video that you can see here in the library when we started recording live. And on Parkinson's and what to eat, what's best to eat for Parkinson's disease. I'll make sure to link it down below. And as I said, basically, mitochondria are the cell's powerhouse, producing energy. So in the moment that the mitochondria don't work as efficiently as they should, some problems start to arise in the cell, because basically daily when we eat and when we require energy, we create we produce biotransformation that lead us to accumulate large amount of free radicals, so-called reactive oxygen species, or ROS, okay? And what happens over a long period of time of having basically this mitochondria, the cell's power energy that is not working, means that there is such an accumulation of free radicals that can basically be extremely detrimental for the cells themselves. So these can further, fasten the process of the neurodegeneration of the neurons that we just talked. So the first thing that we want when talking about what to do in terms of, not getting this bastard disease going too fast is diet, nutrition, because one way that we can definitely help our mitochondria is not giving them too much work to do, okay? So, and the best way to do that, as easy as it sounds, is just eat as many fruit and vegetables as you can. I'm not saying to, binge on the fruit and vegetables, but or if you have the need to, go for it, because probably there is a deficiency there, and you might, it's probably beneficial anyway. But what I'm saying is, fruit and vegetables really are going to help incredibly to provide you with that good source of antioxidant that is going to help your mitochondria, or the mitochondria of the person that is suffering Parkinson, to not having to work too much, okay? And the more, the better. So other things that I would do, apart from, just daily inclusion of good source of antioxidant from the diet. Well, one is the common one, anything containing vitamin C, it's a good antioxidant. There is pretty much a lot of scientific studies on that, we can be sure. Now, some people that maybe have issues with the stomach, they also feel that it's very useful for them. And so it's quite common for many people to start their day with squeezing half a lemon in a cup of lukewarm water, and that could be a really good, natural boost at the beginning of the day. Another thing that I like to mention, again, this is also coming from this year spent basically studying better the traditional phytotherapy of other countries, and having spent quite a lot of time in Kerala, which it's a tropical country basically. I've got closer and closer to the plants of morinda, and as many people that live, for example, in Hawaii as well, in Polynesia, these plants have been part of the medical tradition for hundreds and hundreds of years, and rightly so, because in the past years there's been so many scientific studies examining the properties of morinda in so many areas. Morinda has never been studied for Parkinson's, but we know that morinda is a really truly great antioxidant. Is a great antioxidant. So if you have a good source of morinda that is not too expensive for you, this also could be a good option for, you know, a daily sort of shot of antioxidant. Otherwise, I mean, I'm doing this live now from Italy, so it's wintertime here. There's so many oranges coming from Sicily and lemons and so on. So for us, it's just, you know, this is what our land is giving us, so it makes sense. I wouldn't buy morinda from here. But if I were, you know, if I were probably in Kerala at this point, then yeah, so use what nature gives you to intake your daily antioxidant and go strong on that. I'm not over with the Parkinson topic, because it's a complicated one, and it's not going to be just, you know, magically eat some fruit and vegetables and all this is going to go away. I'm not, you know, I'm not preaching this, but I'm trying to really make some points here. So another thing that we have been talking about is, and this also, there is a good article as well on Alzheimer's disease and diet for Alzheimer's disease, and we talked about the effects of high levels of homocysteine. If you remember, homocysteine is now not just linked with, you know, higher risk of cardiovascular disorders, but is also linked to cognitive disease. And so there are two things that we can do to avoid the accumulation of homocysteine, which truly, it's quite incredible. If you go and check out that study, I showed as well the imaging of what happened basically to patients that had, well, this is for Alzheimer, but the results are so striking that I think it's worth a try. Basically, lower their homocysteine levels in just few weeks, and the change that had in their cognition is pretty remarkable. So two things that we can do to avoid this like massive accumulation of homocysteine is basically limiting as much as we can the amount of cysteine that we intake. Okay, so let's get a little bit into the biochemistry here. So cysteine is an amino acid. What's an amino acid? Is basically a building block for protein. Now, although of course it is, you know, it is important that we intake any amino acid, including cysteine, to have a diet that is heavily based on cysteine is going to create problem, especially because it's going to facilitate this accumulation of homocysteine, which really it's not advised. So what are the foods basically that contain the most amount of cysteine? Lovers of meat, I'm afraid to tell you that meat, any type of meat, including poultry, it's, you know, one of those very heavy sources of cysteine, but also dairy and also eggs. So there is that. Animal products, if you want really to eat animal products, go for something that contains DHA at that point. So I'm talking about, for example, mackerels, fish. I can't recommend salmon anymore because honestly, salmons are too large animals, so they are growing for long period of times before we eat them, and their level of mercury, it's too high, even though we should have standards for these. But then truth is that when there are true tests carried out, pretty much any sushi bar, even the most expensive one that sells, I'm not just bashing on the sushi bar, you know, it's like from the supermarket to the very expensive chain of restaurant that is selling salmon, I'm sorry, but that is going to contain levels of mercury that are just not good for a person that is battling with cognitive disorders. So if you want animal products, limit it to small fish, blue fish that can contain DHA, so at least good sources of omega-3 that at least that is going to support you. But for that and the rest, meat, egg, and dairy, treat them, then it's up to you, but my advice is keep them as a very festive event, and maybe try to limit that like twice a year if you can, because yeah, it's not going to help you out, basically. And of course, I don't want you to get depressed of having to revolutionize completely your diet one day to another. So it has to be a subtle change, but instead of thinking about what you're taking out, focus more on all the things that you want to start to include in your diet, all the antioxidants that you want to start to include in your diet. And trust me, there is so many legumes and grains and vegetables, seasonal vegetables, that you're going to discover thanks to this, that you won't be bored. You won't be bored unless, unless you live in Iceland and don't have access to a supermarket, which I see is very difficult. I mean, the majority of countries, there are great, incredible seasonal products that you can discover and that are going to entertain your, popular taste and your creativity, as well as your health. So yes, so the two things for eliminating the high levels of homocysteine: don't eat cysteine, so limit the foods containing animal products. And the second thing is increase your B vitamin levels. Basically, what B vitamins do is that they aid the biotransformation of homocysteine, so it's easier to eliminate from our body. And B vitamins can be easily found in any food like broccoli or lentils or legumes. And again, if you want to check more about all the juicy stuff on the foods, I suggest you to watch an older video of myself in a kitchen. Okay, so I think. Yes, I think we kind of addressed the underpinning things that are happening on a molecular level in a person with Parkinson's disease. And again, I would limit as well any stimulant, although of course there is not going to be a food that is going to automatically create dopamine. And I would also recommend not to intake foods with high levels of theramine. And we talked about it, especially because the majority of people ingest L-DOPA. So you really don't want to mix L-DOPA with theramine-rich foods. As for the coffee part, I'd say stimulants, it's a no-no. Coffee, I'd say, is also no-no for my point of view for Parkinson's patients, because it's going to be an irritant to the gastrointestinal tract. Now, some studies seem to show that it might be preventive, coffee, to Parkinson's, but because there is no clear line on this topic, I wouldn't really go into saying, eliminate coffee. If you like coffee and want to have a, little shot of coffee here and there, but this is not going to change for the better the disease, that's for sure. Another very important thing that I'd like to address, talking about the molecular level, is that, of course, in order to support a body that is going through neurodegeneration, we need to support a body that is basically suffering a very strong type of inflammation, if you will. And so I'd recommend to include very anti-inflammatory foods. And my top favorite at the moment are hemp sprouts. A couple of weeks ago, we released a video on basically the discoveries that have been done in the past 25 years on hemp sprouts. And they are, of course, probably majority of people are familiar with hemp seeds, hemp flour maybe, or hemp seed oil. You might have heard of all of these, and this is now readily available in any, I'm not even a health food store anymore. I mean, in Europe, it's pretty much like you go to the supermarket and it's there. It's the, you know, the organic section. You'll find any hemp stuff, but still, it's not available pretty much anywhere to buy little boxes of hemp sprouts. You can find soy sprouts, but you can't find hemp sprouts. But hopefully this is going to change. And if you watch that video that I just released, basically I go through the why hemp sprouts is actually a very better option than eating hemp seeds themselves. Either way, whether you can put your hands on hemp sprouts or, you know, you just find hemp seeds, my recommendation is to include basically what the studies from the University of Michigan, I believe it was, declared as a good dose for bioavailability of the nutrients that are the nutrients that are contained in hemp seeds. And the reason I sort of is because there are so many things in the hemp seeds that, of course, you know, the proteins and the essential fatty amino acids, the essential amino acids, the sugars, the fiber, all of the stuff, you're going to intake it any quantity, and that's all good. But there are some elements of the hemp seeds that are particularly important to include in the daily diet, not only of Parkinson's patients, but I'd say also of people suffering from dementia and Alzheimer, and much more actually. But let's focus on the, you know, neurodegenerative. First of all, definitely for their content of polyunsaturated fatty acids, think about the 80% of the total fat content is containing omega-3s and omega-6 in a very good ratio, 1 to 3, so that we can easily absorb them and then use them to basically convert, to avoid the conversion into prostanoids, so into inflammatory molecules. And at the same time, we are intaking omega-3s, which there's so much abundance of evidence of the importance of omega-3s for cognitive disorders, but also for, you know, the symptoms that are related to this type of disease that is often related to stress and depression, because truly it's tough going through a daily struggle, truly. So I'd say, sorry, I have lost a little bit my point here, but what I wanted to say is the recommendation of the dose is for shelled hemp seed, 2 heaped tablespoons a day. The reason is shelled and not hulled is because basically the outside is also very, very important for a lot of properties. So, you know, if you can choose the non-dehulled one, go for them. If you can use sprouts, even better. Otherwise, even just including cold pressed hemp oil in daily diet is going to help with decreasing the inflammation. And decreasing the inflammation, increasing the antioxidant, these are effects that you're not going to perceive as such. But the things that are going to happen is that they are going to help you not running into the pathology so fast, so that we have the time to, you know, actually treat the symptoms. And talking about treating the symptoms, I definitely would like to talk about medical cannabis. Now, I understand that maybe many people that are watching now, or that will be watching after this live is over, are not living in a country where medical cannabis is the thing. But for those who, who live in countries where there is such a thing of medical cannabis and there are doctors that can follow you, do inquire about medical cannabis, because although technically, any compound, you asked me about ways to treat naturally, and of course, any compound, even ginger, it's, if you want, it's a drug. So cannabis, in this sense, as well, it's a drug, but it's a natural compound and it's a botanical herb. So I thought to include this as well to answer your question on things that we can do naturally to treat the pathology. Now, with medical cannabis, the thing is that we don't have clinical trials testifying that it can be used for Parkinson's itself, but there is really a lot of evidence from medical doctors that are using with success the different type of strains, and I'll get a little bit into that with their patients, and they're having a really lot of success. Now, the first symptoms that come to my mind that a person want to control and have control upon is definitely tremor and stiffness, and these are really the two typical symptoms that are going to get a great benefit from medical cannabis. Now, I'm a neuroscientist, and as you know, one of the work that I do is basically putting you in touch with scientific studies that are carried out all around the world that talks about natural therapies. But my friends are medical doctors that are working with cannabis, so I will report on many of their data, and of course I shouldn't directly give an advice as a clinician, and this is not an advice as a clinician, as a medical professional, but just as a person who studies the fact and wants to do sort of free work. This is my way to give empowerment to anyone else out there. So I'm just reporting basically the experiences of other doctors. For many of them, the medical cannabis preferred to treat the tremor stiffness conditions are cannabis that contain THC and CBD pretty much in equal amounts, 1-to-1 kind of ratio. Now, of course, there is a tremendous individuality and variability between each and every case. We shouldn't think about medical cannabis like something that you take a person, has a pathology, okay, there is that type of cannabis, and boom, you make the match, and it's always going to be imperfect. Hopefully, in a few years, this is going to happen. But at the moment, for the type of evidences that we have, and for the lack of clinical trials that we have, it's not yet possible to do something like this. And at the same time, we have so many people around the world that are either self-medicating or medicating with non-standard grade cannabis, that it's extremely difficult for scientists to gauge on real endpoints and all of this. What we see is that, of course, we know from countless studies that CBD has neuroprotective properties, and this is one of the reasons why there are such good results with strain with high contents of CBD. But of course, THC has an important role as well when thinking about Parkinson's, because if you think about it, THC really directly has an involvement with voluntary movement, with the control of the spasms, but also with other parts of the other symptoms of the pathology. And as I said before, one of them can be, for example, either stereotyping or having bad nightmares at night. This is also something that happens sometimes. So it can help with sleep, definitely, and with mood issues. The administration, pardon, the way of administration that is mostly used for patients that go through Parkinson's, of course, with their doctors. I'm reporting what is happening, for example, here in my country, in Italy. Doctors, any doctor can prescribe cannabis to patients, and when they do, basically the recommendation to patients with Parkinson's is usually to use as a way of administration inhalation in terms of vaporization, because it's great for treating acute symptoms. So when you see that the freezing is starting, or when a very strong tremor, for example, is starting, and you can't, some people see the difference in just a few puffs, really, like from not being able to either stand up and go to the kitchen to I have the stories from my friend, and of course I can't make names, and I never have names because he's a super professional person, and of course as a doctor you can't tell, but you can tell the results of the stories, and the stories are incredible. People, older ladies that just a few puffs from feeling very miserable and just very shivering and having tremor all over to standing up, very enthusiastic, very uplifted, not high at all, because of course it's all a process that is controlled, going through with titration, dosage, with the doctor. And she started to cook an extremely delicious dinner for the doctor and everyone else there, and the daughter was like, wow, I haven't seen my mother like cooking like that for like years. So this is not to create a miracle sort of bubble around the whole cannabis thing, but it's like, if you are in a country where you can follow and get your hands on medical grade cannabis and have a good doctor that can follow you, a good neurologist that can follow you, please give it a try, because it's like the results are pretty evident. And not just, as I said, with tremor and stiffness, but also with confusion, anxiety, and all the sleep disturbances. Other option can be, for example, CO2 extracts of CBD, or high CBD strains. It's possible that it might not help so much with the tremors, but it's worth giving it a try, especially depending from what symptoms truly are the one that are the worst for the case. And of course, as a side note, as I said at the beginning of the live, always make sure where your products are coming from. So not just to be applied, of course, to your fruit and vegetables, that as much as you can, buy organic, do buy organic. Like, I know it's expensive, but our life is true, and I don't know where you're living, but I'm especially concerned of any of my friends and people watching from the States. Like, I'm so worried for you guys, and many other countries as well. And here in Europe, it's tiny little better in terms of regulation, but it's it's still pretty bad. So we need to really watch out. And the thing that is super important is to apply the same concept to the phytoceutics that you're going to buy. So even if you're thinking about buying a CBD extract online, if you do, really watch out, ask for an HPLC. If you have pharmacies, like now in Italy, the pharmacies sell CBD extracts, and do buy those. Yes, maybe are a little bit more expensive, but like the majority of online retailers of CBD nowadays are pretty much selling like 1/4 of what they say, what they label their products with. So if you see like a 10% sort of bottle, possibly that is going to contain like 1/3 of that. Like, truly, it's that bad. And the second thing, very important, is remember that cannabis and hemp, is used for, I believe the word is phytoremediation. So basically, it's going to absorb the heavy metals from the soil. It helps to clean up the soil. In south of Italy, they're using a lot of hemp for basically cleaning up a whole area that was completely devastated from a very bad industry, and is used as a phytoremediation. And that's great. But after you use the hemp, you want to make sure that the hemp or the cannabis that you're intaking, it's coming from a really good source, because otherwise that plant is going to transform into poison basically for your body. Okay, I think I'm rambling a little bit, so I'll try and make it a bit faster. Sorry. Trying to think about something else that I could say about Parkinson. Before, definitely, I mentioned about constipation, and I'm kind of, I want to talk about this stuff because I know many people don't feel comfortable about talking about this. Another natural thing, definitely, that we can do, apart from introducing in our daily diet soluble fibers, and that means, for example, oats, bananas, fruits, grains, the good stuff. Apart from that, at night, it could really be useful before going to sleep to take a glass, pouring a spoon of flaxseed or linseed, as you want to call it, pour just half a glass of water on top, and then go to sleep. And the morning after, I know it's going to look a little bit gross, a mucilage, I think it's called, not sure, call me out on that one if it's not called mucilage. In Italian, it would be mucilagine. So I'm curious, it's my second language. All right. So in the morning, it's going to look a little bit gross, but hold on, drink it, because that is going to help you so much with regulating your GI tract. And you, if you're watching and you don't suffer from constipation, but on reverse are having the opposite spectrum of the problem, diarrhea, use the same system, because the flax seeds are going to help you as well. So I think I addressed heavily enough the Parkinson's issue. Of course, people that are interested in the whole Parkinson's topic, apart from watching the other video that we have up, you can post any other question that you might be interested in and send it to us at the info@naturegrows.com. I'll make sure to rewrite it down there in case I missed out on something. I'd like to pass to the next question, and then definitely you should start to close it down. Okay, so this is coming from Alina Thompson, and she says that she's having issues with sleep. In the past 2 months, I suffer with insomnia so badly that I'm now scared of getting to sleep. Is there a way to treat this naturally? Okay, Alina, first of all, I'd like to tell you that you are not alone. So many people are with you at night awake, and I've been one of these people for quite a while. So I think I can help you out with that. And not just me, but actually, thanks God, thanks nature, there is nature that can help us out with this. The first thing that I like to address is that we need to do a little neuroscience trick, because what's happening is probably the first time maybe you were stressed the day after, let's suppose, because you had something to do at work that you were quite stressed about it. And so you thought, you brought this stress to your bed, and there was kind of like, these thoughts that don't let you sleep at night. And then, oh my God, it's starting to be really late and I really have to sleep because tomorrow in a few hours, all of this is happening to me. And of course, the more, this is interesting about when we're trying to sleep, and one of these things that the more effort we put in, and the less we get out. So I'd say that what is happened to you is that from maybe that first one night or the first 1 week that you had many projects to do during the day, and stuff that made you stressed or worried, that kind of started to create a sort of anxiety at night. And in a sense, if you think about it, when we go to sleep, it's like we literally go into another state of consciousness. So it's like, we turn off and then we turn on back again. And if the thing that we do when we turn on back again is the thing that we were, worried about and stressing, it's sort of like, even though 6 hours passed, it's like 1 minute passed, because in our consciousness, when we sleep, it's not really that we feel the time, right? When we hit that alarm button in the morning and it feels like it was 3 minutes, but then all of a sudden it's like bloody 2 hours later, and it's tough. So, what happened is basically that over time you start to really create this worrying about the going to sleep thing, and this is where the habit has formed. So now you said it's been about a couple of months, and I've been one of those people that I think I've gone through even longer than that before. I was already looking for help anywhere, but I know what it means to stay on a really handful of hours for years, I'd say, and it's pretty awful on the quality of life, on the the mood and the vibration of a person, for sure. So I'd say that the first most important thing that you need to do is understanding that this problem, apart from any other suggestion I'm going to give you that we can use from nature, is going to be inside here. Like, this is going to be your number one help to get through out of this issue. Now, as I said, the more we try to get to sleep, the less that's going to happen. So what we're going to do is that we need to learn how to function, exist, without having our mind to have to engage all the time in the thoughts that are coming in our way. Because we think, and there are thoughts, but we are not our thoughts. That's something that we produce, but we can also choose not to engage with those thoughts. And when we choose not to engage with the thoughts, then, we are not so involved with the thoughts anymore. And let's say if the thoughts are something that are telling us, oh, I am so stressed because I can't sleep. Well, that's not going to be a thought that we want to engage with, because it's going to ultimately keep us awake even more, because we're going to stress out even more. So, Alina, I'd say that the number one thing that we need to do for a restful, good sleep is to learn how to train our mind, how to start to feel the difference between the thoughts that you create. We say that we create thoughts at night. The truth is that we create thoughts all the time. It's just that we realize that sometimes only in the evening, because it's the only moment of the day we kind of stand still and see what happens and check in, right? But if you start doing this technique, some people call it meditation, some people call it mindfulness. We can call it mind training for fantastic sleep, however you want to call it. But if you start doing, this training on yourself, that you're not going to wait until the evening to see and check in with your thoughts, but you're starting to do it throughout the day. So at least 3 times a day, set an alarm, first thing in the morning, midday, and in the afternoon, for 1 minute, for 3 minutes. How long you will manage? You will start from 1 minute, go up to 10 minutes, do what you like. It can be 5, it can be really as little as sitting with your alarm set after 3 minutes, closing your eyes and starting to breathe, and simply checking in with your body, how it feels to be sit, how it feels to have your back straight. And I know it can sound very counterintuitive for going to sleep at night, but the more you're going to focus on literally being okay with the uncomfortable sensation of staying still and seeing your thoughts passing by, because eventually you're going to, start thinking about stuff. But going through the really uncomfortable part of seeing your thoughts and then realizing that you're thinking about something and saying, oh, I'm thinking about something. Wait, but I don't really want to engage with thinking now. I just want to concentrate on, either the movement of my breath in my body. It could be a really good answering one. And so going back into that. The more you will train this ability of training your mind, the more this is going to help you at night to not get sidetracked from all these thoughts. Another thing that I'll say is that we really need to make a shift and start to associate the evening, the relaxation part, with something good and pleasant. So instead of thinking about the alarm in the morning, my suggestion is put an alarm in the evening. I haven't done this for years, and I thought I was, there was something wrong in myself because I struggled so much. But the fact was that I never focused so much on really going to sleep early and creating a routine around that. And not only a routine like, I'm the little soldier, I've done all my work today and now I'm going to sleep and tomorrow I will be. Having a sense of doing it for yourself and creating like a very good space for you that you love to relax in. So put an alarm that leaves you a good hour of time that you can chill. And chill, I don't mean watching computer screens, messages, television. Turn everything off or leave it to the other people in the living room, and you go in the room. And if you want to use lavender oil, that's a good option. And use essential oils that can help you create this environment. Candles, whatever you fancy that is going to make you feel like this is time. This is winding down time. Maybe you make your cream, you put your cream on the face. Maybe you read a book or whatever it is that you feel it's that like me time. It can be that at that point you also do your little meditation, and you start to associate the bed, not like the place where you stress out in, but actually the place where you spend like really nice moments in, like apart, it's a place where you have this really good routine in the evening that gives you so much, like give you your you time, your me time. And so start to make this, positive association. When you're starting to get anxious about, oh my God, I can't sleep, you need to stand up and shift that thoughts, that energy into something that makes you in the state you're in. So if you physically are starting to feel like you're panicking, like your heart is racing and so on, because you're panicking about the day after, you need to stand up from that bed. You don't have to stay in that bed. You need to stand up, give your brain basically a message that you're going away from the threat, because that's how your brain is moving when you're thinking that you're having a panic attack. Basically, it's thinking that there is a threat. So you stand up, you go in another space, and give your brain basically the signal of, okay, I've moved, I'm now not under the threat anymore. How do I feel? And maybe there is like, your heart is racing, or you have a sort of strange feeling in your belly or in your throat. And I'd say that these are also very common elements with when we are nervous and excited for something really good to happen in our life. Think when you, I don't know, met your husband, or were about to graduate, or whatever it might be that got you really excited. I'm sure that you experienced it at least once. Get, to tune that feeling that you're having in the physical body, and trick your brain basically into, my dear body, now you're behaving like this, but this is because I am so excited that tomorrow I get to do this thing. I get to see my son. I'm sure that there is something, even if the day after there is like the most awful job ever, that for sure there is going to be something that is going to make you really excited to stand up and wake up. And so if you start to make that association, and we need to basically retrain this area that is now just associating your bed with a place where we are so stressed because we can't sleep. I talked about lavender oil because, of course, there is linalool in lavender oil, and linalool is, we talked about it in quite a few articles on terpenes. Super important for its GABAergic properties. So, of course, it's an anxiolytic. It's going to help with that, and helps literally to wind you down and go to sleep. Some people, and including myself, have been using CBD oil for helping with insomnia, but you don't have to take CBD oil at night because that could actually create, reinforce the issue. So my suggestion is take it in the morning. Take CBD oil in the morning if you're taking it, because overall I felt it was really helping me to maintain a stable energy, especially at the beginning when I didn't have enough sleep to get me through. So I kind of wanted this support from nature to help me get through the day without napping, so then I could get to sleep early and everything else, and get back into the harmony of the circadian rhythms. And this issue as well, you mentioned the 2 months time. I don't know which side of the world you live, but here, it's winter time now, and the days are definitely shorter. So if for some reasons we don't get to go out in the morning, or there is no sun some days, we get to miss out, like maybe for weeks. Like now, it's good because I now moved to a country that is very sunny, but I lived for pretty much most of all of my adult life in very rainy and gloomy countries. So I know what it means to have a lack of vitamin D, and of course, that is going to influence a lot as well your sleep patterns. So you need to make a priority into getting this done, even if that means putting having to get your lunch a little shorter so you can have a little walk, just anything, but at least 15 to 20 minutes daily that you can move around and take the sun. Of course, the movement is going to help, but it's not just for that. It's truly for this sun rays. And if you live in a country where there is definitely not enough sun, this is a good time to intake vitamin D. So with all of this said, I think I addressed quite enough. Guys, if you want any other questions in the future, we will continue, storing them, and we will continue saving them from info@naturalsmart.com, and I'll make sure to get back to it for the next for whenever it's going to be the next live. If we are now going to meet live before the next couple of weeks, then I'd like to thank you for your support and your support and just your really nice comments and emails that you have been sent. And especially in these past years, I have been traveling in 3 different continents, and it's been, of course, I don't want to complain because I felt very fortunate of being able to do it, but it hasn't been easy. And the support that we received from you, and with these platforms as well, that YouTube, that we started to interact with, it's been very fun. It's been very exciting, and I like this interaction, and I like your questions, and I like to still use my intellectual capabilities to help you out, explore ways that nature can support you to feel your best. So with that said, I am gonna go and have a tremendous happy end of this 2017 and new year, with a good start of 2018, and I'll hopefully gonna see you soon. Also, today is Wednesday, so for any Italy subscriber, check out, because we just released a new article for you that is all about biodiesel and why the sources that we're using about biodiesel at the moment are not so good. And of course, we also have all of the collection of all these articles in English as well. And if you are an eco-conscious person like myself, and you like to enjoy seeing also the not just the problems, but also what are the solutions. We offered a few, so you can check that out too on the website nutritionalsmart.com. It was a real pleasure to be with you for this past, I believe, hour at this point. So thank you again, and I will see you the next time. Ciao, ciao.